Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Don't Panic, Overcoming Pandemic Fear. This webinar is part one of a four-part series that we're hosting at ATD New Orleans. My name is Kimberly, and I work with Darlene at Crescent Bank and run social media for ATD NOLA. I will be assisting her today as the moderator for the webinar. I just have a few housekeeping tips to share with you guys before we get started. So like I mentioned a second ago, once we kick off, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone today. We also will be recording. We're expecting a very interactive session, so Darlene's going to ask you some questions, and you guys can just hit us up in the chat box to respond. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys a copy of the participants guide via the chat box if you want to take notes. And lastly, if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, just send me a direct chat and I'll help you work through that. So I'm happy to introduce you guys Darlene Lenyo. She's the chapter president for ATD NOLA and the director of talent development over at Crescent Bank, where she oversees professional development, leadership, and employee engagement for the bank. So Darlene.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate it, and I'm really happy to be here today. Like Kimberly said, I'm the president for the New Orleans Metro Area Chapter of the Association of Talent Development, which if you haven't checked out the chapter, I'm going to invite you to please do so. We're about 30 members strong, filled with individuals who are passionate about serving those around them in that learning and development field. And of course, we have some really great offering of events and professional development opportunities this year. So look at the website, because Disney will be joining us in a few months to share their insider tips on employee engagement and customer service. We have design thinking, a gamification certification, and just so much more. And we would love to have all of you join us. Also, this is the first part of a four-part series. So next week, Michael Frederick of Farmers Insurance will be joining us to discuss working from home. The week after that, we have a discussion on converting ILT to VLT. And on the fourth week, we'll be discussing engaging remote employees. So all great topics that are really relevant today. So if you haven't done so already, please check out ATD NOLA's website for more information. So let's get started. So today we're going to talk about safety during COVID, and more specifically some tools on how to manage ourselves during these times of uncertainty. So psychological safety has been around for a while. Amy Edmondson, Google's Aristotle Project, these have all made the term psychological safety mainstream. You guys have heard it before. And that's incredible. What you'll find is a lot of discussion on the internet on psychological safety in reference to teams, really having people's voices heard. So today our discussion is really going to be more of ways that you can provide psychological safety for yourself, and just how simply being aware can have a profound positive impact. And by the way, this is not only great for you, but for all those that you love and even your children. So Beignet is going to join us in the background. He's heard me rehearse this several times over. So we'll just go with it. He provides lots of great insight as well. So I'm the big believer in power of groups. So I know that everyone on this call has some great tools that you've already been using. So we'll be using our chat box a lot. And if you like to address the group, just let us know in the chat box and we'll be happy to take you off of mute. And also at the end, there's some tools and resources so you can explore this topic more. And my contact information was on the previous slide, so please do not hesitate to reach out for any reason. So what if there was a way that we could really bring our best selves to our everyday lives? A way where we could have a positive impact on those around us that would increase engagement and optimize our performance, and our personal well-being. I mean, on any given day, that can be daunting, managing ourselves. And that's when things are normal. There's work and kids and relationships and trying to make that all come together. But what happens when there's a global pandemic and normal has been redefined? Or worse yet, things have changed but have yet to be defined. And in a perfect world, we get to the ability to be our true selves, to really bring our real selves to the table without any fear of repercussions. I mean, one where we can contribute and disagree, where we have a trust system with those around us, where we can be scared or direct or take risk or just be willing to say, I messed up, or ask for help when we're in too deep. But we are far from living in a perfect world right now. In fact, it's a world full of limitations, the unknown, isolation, and even danger. And there is actual danger out there. One where we can find ourselves and the people we love could be at risk, get sick, hospitalized, or worse, just succumb to a virus that we don't fully understand. And for the first time for many of us, we're actually in physical danger. We don't have this experience and the know-how to navigate these uncharted territories. So how many of you have found yourself demonstrating behaviors that you wouldn't normally do? Like maybe hoarding toilet paper, or insisting you make the decision, or finding yourself unwilling to compromise on dinner. So I'm going to ask you guys to be nice to yourselves, but tell me in the chat box, what are some of the things that you were doing that you just would describe as, that's not typically me? So Kimberly, while the group hits us up, do you find yourself demonstrating any unusual behaviors?
Yes, I definitely do. The other day, actually, my boyfriend and I had decided what we wanted to cook for dinner that night, and at the last minute, he said, actually, I'm just going to go pick up Chick-fil-A. And I got so irrationally angry. It didn't make any sense.
I'll give you a good example too. So my husband Scott has forgotten his cell phone twice in the last 5 days. Now, if you guys know Scott, the cell phone is almost permanently attached to his hand. He always has this with him, and it's just, you know, so important for his work, and yet he's like forgotten it twice in 5 days. It's not something he typically does. What's the group telling us?
Yeah, we're actually getting a lot of good responses. So less patience at the grocery store, more controlling, feeling anxious when I leave the house, a lot more emotional, getting scared when you're around someone outside of the house. So
yeah, that's really good. I'll tell you a way that it's showing up for me too is like I find myself skipping steps I wouldn't normally skip. Like I'm usually pretty diligent and on top of things, and I find myself just really waiting more and more to the last minute and not fully focusing. Like I'm checking out more, and that's really usual for me. So first, let me say this to you guys, and I'll give you a pass. So Dr. Dan Radecki, he's a neuroscientist, and he's the founder of the Academy of Brain-Based Leadership. And he has this great mantra that I really love. He likes to say, it's not you, it's your brain. And I love that because there's things that we do that we don't understand why we're behaving the way that we are. And it really has more to do with our brain. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So the thing about the brain is, and this is hardwired, like this is rooted deep in the foundation of biology. Our brain scans for danger. So our amygdala, or that reptilian brain, think that fight or flight that you guys are aware of, is truly designed to scan for threats to the tune of 5 times more than looking for the reward. And this makes sense. Like if we go back in time, it was more important to be aware of our surroundings so we could stay alive other tribes, saber-toothed tigers, getting lost and being alone. These all pose threats to our physical safety. And thankfully, times have changed. We are no longer on the lookout for saber-toothed tigers, but different types of threats have emerged. Threats such as, will I lose my job? What does that person think of me? Can I trust you? And then enter COVID-19, a time when groceries are limited, people are losing their jobs, and people are getting sick. So how do we manage ourselves during this time and keep ourselves both physically and psychologically safe? So I want to explore the brain just a little bit more, and I promise to spend less than 5 minutes in a very simplified world of neuroscience, which neuroscience is not simple at all, but we know the brain is a complex organ in the human body. And I promise you I won't go into much more detail than that, except to say this. Not only does our brain consist of the amygdala, but we also have a more logical thinking center of our brain called the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC. And this thinking center really gives us the ability to be logical, to have reason and rationale, to exhibit empathy and make decision. So the PFC also moderates our social behavior. So the amygdala, that emotional center, is essential to your ability to feel certain emotions and to perceive them in other people. And it's constantly scanning for threats, and it reacts. It depends on hardwiring and previous experiences, and it makes snap, quick judgments. It's the thing in your head that screams, alert, and then sets off a cascade of chemical changes, which trigger the flight or fight stress response. The PFC, however, is that logic center. And again, this is where we find reason. So the PFC will quickly assess the situation and then say hey, chill, no worries here, or uh-oh, we're in trouble now. And there's a very important relationship between the amygdala and the PFC, and they kind of act on a dimmer switch. So when that lower brain, the amygdala, is overstimulated, it makes it hard for our PFC to be engaged. And therefore, it's at times of high stress that we really lose the ability to make good, sound judgments. Have you guys been there before? I know that I've had. So how do we put ourselves in the driver's seat during this time of COVID-19? How can we keep ourselves safe? Well, first, there's physical safety. And this is what we've been hearing a lot of on the news, right? What are some ways? So let's open up the chat box again, because I want to hear from you guys. What are some of the ways that you are keeping you and your family safe during this time?
Yeah, absolutely, Darlene. I'll jump in real quick and share with you guys how I am staying safe. My mom loves to sew, so she made me my very own LSU face mask that I get to wear every time I go to the store.
Go Tigers!
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say it's been pretty hard, but one of the things we've done is I haven't seen my parents since the middle of March. Their safety is really important to me, and they're high risk. My husband goes to the city every day for work, so we haven't been around my parents physically for all of this time. I mean, we talk on the phone and we use Zoom or FaceTime, sometimes not very successfully, but we haven't had that family dinner in a long time. But that's one of the ways we're trying to stay safe.
Yeah,
what's the group telling us?
We're getting a lot of good responses here, actually. So social distancing, staying at home. Michael said he bought face masks for the first time ever.
Yes.
That hard decision, like you talked about, not visiting family, parents, grandkids, etc. Stuff.
Yeah, you guys got it covered. The staying at home, limiting travel, social distancing, wash your hands often, right? We've probably gone through more soap and water than we have in the past. Probably one of the hardest things for me is to avoid touching like my face. Like, it's such a simple thought process and so incredibly hard to do, but cleaning and disinfecting the house, and then like covering your coughs and sneezes like with your elbow. So, and it's all great advice, and for the most part, pretty simple, sometimes not easy. But then the next question really truly becomes, how do we manage our psychological safety? Like, how do we put ourselves in the driver's seat? How do we truly like rise above our biases to more frequently engage our PFC so we're aware of what's driving our true decisions and our behaviors? So when I say the term psychological safety, I'd really like to know what you guys think of. So tell me in the chat box what psychological safety means to you.
Yeah, darling, that might be a tough one. I don't know about everyone else, but for me, psychological safety is kind of, like you mentioned earlier, it's not quite, things aren't quite as dangerous as they used to be back in the time of cavemen and everything. So psychological safety for me is really just like making sure that I feel comfortable and safe, like emotionally, in my environment.
I love it. That's a great definition. What's the group telling us?
Yeah, knowing how to control yourself, keeping your stress in check, finding calm, staying engaged and mentally active. A lot of good responses.
Perfect. It's really like that part of that mental well-being. Well, Amy Edmondson, she is a professor at Harvard Business School. You guys have written several best-selling books. She defines psychological safety as a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. Like, what a powerful concept to not be so incredibly guarded, to be able to take and ask the question and not be fearful that I'm going to be perceived as not knowing what's going on because I asked that question. So about 2 years ago, I was introduced to the concept of psychological safety and the safety model. And that safety model really takes that idea that Amy's talking about here and puts it into actionable and an easy to understand model. And it was about a year ago, we introduced the language to my team at work. And this is truly where the magic started to happen. It was a language that we could use every day, both at the home and the office. And it helped us to understand ourselves better, but also those around us. And it really led to healthier relationships on the team, provided us less stress, and increased our turn time on our productivity. So it really had some powerful results for us. So safety, as defined by the Academy of Brain-Based Leadership, here's their book here, Psychological Safety by Dr. Dan Radecki and Ma and Lee Hall. And you can get it on Amazon. It's a great, quick, easy read. But they define their safety model as a model that describes some of the important social factors that can trigger the powerful threat response in our brain and cause us to feel psychologically unsafe. So we can think of these safety domains as biases that we use in our social context. And again, if you're not familiar with the book, it's an incredibly easy read. Get it on Amazon. Highly recommend it. So let's dig a little bit into what that safety model is about. So security. Security is our need for predictability. This is really, when we feel something is safe, our brain is rewarded with dopamine. And when there's uncertainty, our brains have a threat response. So security is the need for consistency, the need for commitment, the need for certainty, and the dislike of change. See, our brains are wired for negativity. And when we don't know the story, when there is uncertainty, we will write our own story. And when we do so, we assume the worst. This is because our brains remember it's better for me to prepare for the worst than to assume the best and be wrong. So there's autonomy, and autonomy is our need to feel we have choices and control, or at least the perception of control over our environment. Fairness, now fairness can best be described as the need to engage in and experience fair exchanges for both ourselves and others. And then there's esteem. And esteem can be broken down into 3 parts. So 1, how do we see ourselves? 2, how we compare ourselves to others. And 3, how we think others see us. And then trust is our social need to belong to and protect our tribe. And because we're social animals, our need to see others similar to us so that we can share commonality gives us a higher sense of trust. So think back to those caveman days, typically tribes that we didn't know was a threat. And so commonality gives us a higher sense of trust. And it's actually been found that those we relate to most, we are able to empathize with. Whereas when we can't see commonality, our brain sees that individual as a threat. And then there's you, right? This is your biases, your experiences, your upbringing, your socioeconomic status, your personality that you bring to the table. It's kind of the wild card in the mix. And there's a point I really would like to make here. And it's kind of like we're a blend of all of these parts. For most of us, we have 1 or 2 social domains that are more important, are more of a driving factor for who we are. So before we start to dig in even deeper, share with me in the chat box, but for you, what are the 1 or 2 most important drivers for you? From security, autonomy, fairness, esteem, or trust, what do you think are your biggest triggers?
Kind of a difficult question, Darlene.
Another hard one?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said that, Kimberly. So if you're struggling with this question, think about it 2 different ways. So think about a project at work that you really enjoy doing, like what you really were excited, motivated to do it. Of those 5 drivers, which 1 or 2 were hitting on all cylinders for you? And then you can kind of flip that script and think about it a little bit different way. Think about a project at work that you did not enjoy, that it was a struggle, you weren't motivated. What 1 or 2 drivers were truly missing there?
So we're getting a lot of good responses. I can already see a little bit of a theme here. So autonomy and security for a lot of people.
Nice.
Really high. And Valerie actually brings up a good point. She said that hers are different now than they were previously.
I totally agree with you. So to that point, for me, autonomy and esteem are really my 2 biggest drivers. So those are the things that, are very, very important pre-COVID. If you pulled me into a project, you proceed to tell me what to do every single step of the way, I'm just not going to have a good time, and I'm not going to bring my best self to the table. I struggle to find that motivation. But today, for me, probably because of the very specifically because of the environment, security and trust are standing out. So I like change. I'm usually a big change agent. I tend to like change more than I'm driving, so that's probably tied in a little bit to that autonomy. But it's been a lot of change in a very short time period, and trying to manage that, being aware of it has been helpful. And then trust. And I think it's because I can't go visit my family or hang out with my daughters or go hang out with friends. So I'm really craving that in-group and feeling that I'm a part of something bigger than myself too. So There is, I want to take this time right now. If you Google the Academy of Brain-Based Leadership, they have a free assessment. So there's a paid version and a free version, but it's a great way to go answer a few questions about yourself. Again, there's no right or wrong, good or bad, and it will help you determine what those factors, those drivers are for you. So I'd like to leverage the group again and discuss some of the ways that you guys are managing your psychological safety right now. So tell me in the chat box, like, what are some things that you guys are doing to kind of keep your brain in check and yourself mentally healthy?
So I'll jump in real quick. So actually, a few weeks ago, I had this idea that I implemented with my boyfriend, and I call it the self-care jar. It's pretty fun. We started out and got sticky notes and wrote down things that were ways that we could take care of ourselves. So, facials, or like a long walk, a treat night where we would go and get like a milkshake or something like that, and put together all of these ideas on how we could take care of ourselves as like a preventative care almost. And each night we would draw one out and do it for the night. And it was really, really very helpful.
I love it. That's excellent. That's a great idea to take away. I'm going to start that. Scott will be so excited about it too. I know. What are some of the things that are coming up in the chat box?
Yeah. So a lot of breaks from the news. Meditating and exercising is super important. That social connectedness, like FaceTiming and Zooming with family and friends. Denise says that she continues brunch with friends through Zoom, which that's pretty fun. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, I think the meditation and that brain training is so incredibly important. There's lots of great resources out there in order to, you can download some apps and really spending that time to try to disconnect from the world and control all that noise that's going on inside of our heads. It's an excellent way to like strengthen that muscle. Also too, I want to share with you guys, I downloaded a free app the other day and it's called GTHX, like G Thanks. And it's a free app, and every morning I bring it up and it will pull pictures out of my phone, like to put a smile on my face. And the purpose of it is to really think of things that you're grateful for. So starting my mornings out just very purposely going, I'm going to think about things in my life that I'm grateful for right now, has really just helped my attitude, but also to manage the stress of the days. I just think it's a phenomenal tool there. So let's see. Oh, I missed that slide earlier. So you guys came up with some great ideas, and I think we're going to share this recording out with everybody, but we're also going to like take those chat comments too and be able to share that as well. So if you're flipping through the chat box and you see some good ideas that you want to implement, we'll go ahead and collect that and be able to share it with everybody on the call. We'll be happy to do that. But here's some helpful tips that we have for managing your psychological safety. So establishing a schedule or routine. I mean, if security is a big trigger for you, taking and, getting up every morning and, maybe taking a walk outside before coming into the office in order to take in work. But routines help, calm that brain's need for that things are too uncertain for it. So, and also like focus on the things that you can control. So if autonomy is really big, there's, some of this stuff we cannot control. We're definitely in it all together, but focusing on the things that you can do, like maybe getting a good night's rest or eating healthy foods, really can put you in the driver's seat. And then, ensuring equity in the conversation. So for fairness, for those of you where fairness is a big trigger, or for the people around you where fairness is a big trigger, ask people to contribute, round robin that conversation. So when you're on your Zoom calls, like, is there anything else that you would like to add to this? Or, hey, Kimberly, I haven't heard from you. Would you like to contribute? And making sure that people really get that fair equity into the conversation. And then one of my favorite things, and it might be because esteem is so important to me, but to recognize and acknowledge other people's efforts and their contributions. So studies prove that the brain, when it recognizes others, it gets a kick and it is rewarded there too. So it feels good for us to notice other people doing great things. And it has the same effect on our minds that if we were receiving that recognition and approval. So that's another great way for both yourself and for others in order to help them manage that social driver of esteem. I think, guys, we're all in this together. So this is a we thing. It's definitely not an I thing. And I think that could help with that trust and knowing, like, finding the commonalities with others, looking for ways that we really connect. What do we have in similar to each other can help us build that trust there too. All right, so more tips, and you guys said this too, so was our lazy dog from earlier in our presentation. He's out on his walk or getting his run in. So it's just proven not only physically, but for the brain itself to take and get some daily exercise, taking that walk around the block or moving and getting up during the day, getting away from the chair, has a lot of benefits to our psychological safety. It's also going to be our adequate sleep, looking for different ways to connect, FaceTime, Zoom, and of course, some healthy eating here. Kimberly, you were telling me about something earlier about social connectedness. What was the way that you and your niece had connected that was just a great tool?
Yeah, so I actually just recently learned about it. It's called Netflix Party, and basically it's what's it called? Like the thing that you enable on your Chrome browser, Google Chrome, and it allows you to watch a show or a movie live at the same exact time. So it syncs up with the person or people that you're watching with. And there's a chat bar on the side that you can communicate through. So it's really like a fun way to kind of have a movie night with those friends or family that you're missing out on.
I love it. So you can still go to the movies, but everybody stay safe and social distance while they're doing so. Yeah. I love it. Pop some popcorn in the microwave. Exactly. Great. So these are some tools and resources that that I found to be really helpful as far as learning more about psychological safety and really managing myself. But I know that this is an incredible group of people who are about professional development, are about leadership, psychological safety, providing those real safe environments. So I want to know from you guys, like, what are some of the things that you're reading, that you're listening to in order to study to help you keep and manage yourself during these tough times? So it could be a podcast, it could be a TED Talk. What are some of the things that you guys are listening and exploring out there that you think others may be interested
in? So Valerie said John Maxwell podcasts. I haven't heard of him, but it sounds exciting. I personally have been doing a lot of meditating lately, even if I don't quite feel that I am good at it. It's still, like, even just trying is really helpful. And so I use the Calm app a lot. I know Calm, and there's another meditation app, that Headspace, that they both are offering some free resources right now. So
I find both of those tools really helpful too. My cousin, I wanted to share this with you guys. I'll look it up real quick if I can find it. Shared a fantastic podcast that she's been listening to. That's been really interesting, and I think you guys might be interested too. Let's see. The Art of Charm, so the Art of Leadership in Business with Patrick, I'm not going to say this correctly, Lencioni, so it's Lencioni, but look up the Art of Charm. That's been a really excellent podcast as well. I'm big into TED Talks. I love a TED Talk, so there's some great TED Talks out there. And in fact, Amy Edmondson has a couple where she talks about teams and psychological safety. Any others that come up, Kimberly?
There's been a ton. Free college courses online, Hurdle podcast, a lot of free leadership and productivity webinars out there. Brene Brown, of course, is wonderful.
Absolutely. We're big fans of Brene Brown's. And rework. I don't know if you guys knew this, but several years ago, Google put out their part of their learning system, and it has great case studies and blog posts and videos and even tools that you can implement into your work that is free to use. So it's just RE work that you can look up from there. All right, so we're pretty much wrapping up here. I love all the chat responses that came through. And so before we leave, though, I want to know, there were lots of great suggestions in chat box. We talked about some different concepts and different ways to look at managing ourselves through psychological safety. What's one or two things that you could take away from today that you're going to actually do something with, that you could implement or explore more? So tell me in the chat box if there's anything that you would like to add.
Yeah, Darlene, actually for me, Dr. Dan Radecki's quote, "It's not you, it's your brain," was really impactful for me.
Good. I think it helps me too, just in that sense of okay, I reacted this way because I'm wired to react this way, but I can take more control and do something a little bit different with it too. It's a great time for any questions, or if anybody on the call has some insights or things that they would like to share and you would like us to take you off of mute, I will stop sharing my screen, but this could be a fantastic time to get to know some of the people on the call and share some information if you would like. So let me know.
Yeah, so we're getting some good responses. Valerie says she loves the safety model. Jenny already downloaded the Art of Charm podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, creating more of a routine. Angela said she thrives on routine. And so some of that's kind of fallen away because of everything that's been going on.
It is interesting. I learned something about myself because of the work from home and the isolation that's come with the virus that I didn't know. I didn't think that I was a very routine person, but looking back in those first couple of weeks of just struggling a little bit, I noticed that I got up every day, I took my shower, I did the dogs, hung out with my husband, I drove to work, and those things provided structure. And so I had to recreate that for myself in an environment that really didn't have boundaries, and that really helped me too.
Yeah, Joel brings up a really interesting point, actually. He said he's loving watching stuff, but finding that he needs to have things to create or output too, or his brain goes to mush. So we're taking in a lot of information and learning a lot of new things, but being able to do something with that knowledge and create is really important too.
I agree with you there. Joel, for you guys who don't know him, has a real, he's excellent, very creative. He's an author of a cookbook. He runs a training program for a very, very successful company. And he's just created lots of magic in his world. So if you don't know him, get to know him. It's absolutely, I've learned so much from him, for sure. And he's in Canada. He's in Canada, so he's Canadian. Like, yeah, how can you not like Canadians? Anything else anybody would like to add? Anybody want to come off of mute and share any experiences or anything? It's a quiet group. Well, I love when I can take and give you a gift that you can walk away from. So if nothing else, you got 20 minutes back in your day that you were scheduled to be out for. So you don't have to tell your bosses. You can go run and hide and pretend like you're still in that meeting if that works for you. But I truly want to thank each and every one of you for being on the call with me today, for sharing your ideas and your insights. And I can't wait for us to all be able to get back together in a room and see each other more face to face. But until then, let's keep up through social media and Zoom and opportunities. And before I forget, next week, Michael, who's on the call with us, Mike will be facilitating discussion on working from home. So it's going to be another great webinar session. So hope this was worth your time. It was great to see all of you. So thanks. Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye.